Hello, everyone. This is Aman Singh with DynaScape. Thanks very much for joining our webinar focused on minimizing the impact on your landscape business and building towards a stronger future. Speakers are, of course, myself with DynaScape and Justin White with K&D Landscaping. This webinar would be a conversational style webinar. So after just a minute, I'm just going to turn off this slideshow. And Justin and I are going to be having a conversation just around, how he, as a CEO of a successful landscape company out of the Bay Area, are really working towards just minimizing this impact and working through the tough climate that we're all in at the moment. Justin, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, Aman. It's great to be here with you today.
Perfect. So let's get started. I know this webinar is about 30 minutes. Let me just end the slideshow quickly. All right. Perfect. So I just wanted to kick it off, Justin. I know we're all kind of in this tough climate at the moment. Just want to really start off with, where are you spending most of your time these days? I mean, I'm sure there's so many things going on, and you got to make sure, businesses are running, still ensuring, the culture and people are kind of top of mind as well. Where's most of your time going at this point in time?
Well, that's a great question, Aman. It's definitely a challenge for me to prioritize and identify where the most important part of my day needs to be spent. One real quick housekeeping: your screen is still being shared, I think, and no worries on that. So for me, and by the way, guys, I'm Justin White with K&D Landscaping. Oh, shit. Sorry, my computer froze for a minute. Okay, so hey guys, Justin with K&D, and so I'm out of Santa Cruz, California. I operate a $10 million landscape company. We're full service maintenance and installation. It's a family company. My parents started in 1986. I took over about 2015 and started growing the company, and we grew from about 10 to 12 employees to today having about 90. And we're happy to say that we have the majority, about 88, 89 of our employees back to work as of today, thanks to the hard work of our state of California and our federal government getting us back in as a landscape industry. We're in the tier 1, so great opportunity for us to set an example and show the community how important it is to be safe and how good landscapers are at being safe. So back to the question, Aman, about the whole time management thing, because I think it's very important right now. So, I'm kind of splitting my time up. I'm getting up earlier in the morning, and I recommend just getting some type of workout in, whether it's walking, running, whatever floats your boat, surfing. But just get a little blood flow going, because as you get into the flow of the day, and I'm sure everyone can relate to this, before you know it, it's 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, and you're finally eating dinner. So it's good to get some blood flow going. From there, I pretty much try to educate myself on what's changed in the last 24 hours. And there's so much day-to-day change going on in our industry, but also just as an economy and as safety protocols and new directives come out from the CDC and our local counties. It's important that us as business owners and CEOs are up to date on all that new information. So I try to do some educating, and at 8:50 we have a daily huddle that our entire management team call in. There's about 13 of us. Right. We all, it really goes in about 5 to 7 minutes and we're done, but it gets everyone on the same page. Where are we going to be spending our time? We report what's our big rock, or we call it the frog. It's a little internal joke, but what's our big frog that we need to eat today? And, nice. What do we need to get done? What's our most important thing? And that way we can all be on the same priority alignment. And then from there, I just really see, how can I support my team? There's meetings that I'm dropping into, and I'm trying to stay in touch with all the different departments and managers, foremen, supervisors. Who needs my support today the most? Is there a big bid going out that we need to team up on and make sure we're being the most competitive and giving the best package possible? Is there a project that we're running into stucks, or we're having some safety issues? So I really my job is to eliminate barriers for my team so they can plow through their day get their number one priorities done. And beyond that, I think it's also, just making sure that all of our policies and procedures and everything else is up to date. And really that's almost like a daily type of occurrence. We've dedicated a website page on our website to our employees so they have an access code, and we update that as needed. But that way there's always live information on that page that they can go to. So overall it's supporting the team, it's making sure they have what they need, and then educating and then acting and making sure that we're going.
That's great. That's a great start. So, I mean, do you typically ask for feedback or input from your employees? How are your employees feeling about this? Do they kind of really, dial into the fact that, the leadership is really taking the initiative to do all of this stuff? I'm sure that you're obviously speaking to their leaders, and I just want to understand how the employees are kind of coping with this.
Yeah, so first off, we have a really good feedback loop in our company. So we have multiple ways for the employees to get feedback. We have a text message line that can be anonymous if they choose, but basically they can text this number and it goes into our HR department. So if they have any issues, any concerns, whether it's, they need something and they're not getting it from their supervisor, they can text the line. They have a direct connection to our HR team and to myself specifically. Everyone has my cell phone number in the company, so they can ring me up. I'm very accessible. And then we have our we have meetings throughout the week for each department. But what we do in these meetings is we have a people headline section. It's a time that we share headlines around people. So what feedback have we heard in the last week that should be shared with the team? Whether it's, the commercial team needs a new tractor, or the blades on the mower aren't sharp, the little things all the way up to the high things about they're having issues with their health insurance, or what do I do if I'm furloughed and I can't afford my rent. We want to make sure that we help our employees not only professionally but also personally, and be that support team that they have to come to us with really any challenge they have. So that's the feedback is very important for us.
Absolutely. And then ultimately that comes down to culture, right? I mean, are you seeing that it's impacting the culture, and are you making all of these steps that you're taking, I guess, is impacting the culture in a positive way? But how are you ensuring that the culture doesn't really, it's rock solid, it continues to stay as is?
Yeah, well, Aman, you know me, and I'm a huge culture fan. I think culture is really the number one differentiator. So many people ask, what makes your company different? We all install landscapes. There's some competitors here that install some terrific craftsman type landscapes that I can't say that I'm the best quality, because there's always someone out there that could one up you on that. For us, it's culture, because that's something that takes years to build. Our foundation is built on a set of core values. So during these tough crises and uncertain times, we fall back on two things: our core values and our core purpose. Our core purpose is to raise the bar in the industry. So our job basically is every single day to go to work and be better than we were yesterday. We're not necessarily trying to outdo anyone or outdo other competitors. We're basically just trying to improve on what we've established so far. As far as how to keep culture going and continue the momentum that we've created, and most companies have a solid momentum over the last 3 to 5 years. We've had a great economic run, which usually lends itself to improved culture. Be careful when you start cutting salaries and cutting wages. You really send a message to your team that they're less valuable than they were a few months ago.
Right.
And that's not the message you're trying to send. The message you're trying to send is, hey, tough times require tough decisions, and we're in this together. But if you don't communicate that, if you don't communicate the reasoning why you're changing some of the ways you're compensating your employees, or you're changing some of the reasonings of getting together, you want to make sure that you communicate that, because otherwise they're going to fill in the blanks with kind of the worst case scenario. And it's a scary time for culture right now. So it's important that you're monitoring that very closely.
I think that kind of lends me into my next question, just around cash flow. I guess, with what's going on in the world, I mean, everyone wants to hold cash really close to their chest, right? So just wondering, how are you managing that cash flow today in your world?
So, I always like to know that I have levers to pull in my business. And that's kind of from the operation side of me growing up in the industry.
Right.
I'm a tractor operator. So I think of levers at a tractor, levers in the business. For us, it's contacting our vendors and our suppliers and just asking for grace, just asking, hey, can we have a couple extra weeks on this bill, or can we wait to pay you until the client pays us? So
Got
just
it.
communicating. Don't blow off your obligations of paying your vendors, but most of them, if you make the phone call, they're going to be understanding, and not all, but most will. I think for us, that's been the case. And then as far as your clients go, you can start to offer maybe some discounts. So, if you pay within 5 days or pay within 3 days, we'll give you a 2 or 3% discount. That can get cash in the door. It's also just measuring how much cash you have. And my rule of thumb is always, I like to have 6 months of operating costs.
Got it.
So if my business stopped getting income tomorrow, I ideally would like to operate for 6 months without a dollar of income. It's a pretty lofty goal in our industry, as most landscape businesses, the free cash flow is very minimal, and we outlay a lot of expense. But just make sure you have a nice cushion there, utilizing whether it's cash in the bank, in addition maybe a line of credit.
Mm-hmm.
I always say it's better to ask for money when you don't need it than wait until you need it, because usually a bank is not going to want to lend someone money when they're very desperate, because your P&L and balance sheet probably doesn't look great. So, try to get that funds allocated and at least get it reserved earlier in the process.
Got it. Switching gears a bit, since clearly, I mean, we're in this crisis, and there's a lot of emphasis on making sure that worker safety is priority. What steps would you recommend our listeners, like, what should they be thinking about, when it comes to worker safety, and what are you applying in your day-to-day, I guess?
So that's a good question. And if, you're out there talking to people and reading social media and stuff, you see that there's a lot of opinions out there about what we should be doing. There's a lot of feeling that the lockdown has gone too far and we should open things back up. Many states are doing that with some success. But, it's important that you don't let your personal opinions get in the way of employee safety. And you also have to put employee safety ahead of shareholder returns, and sometimes ahead of the client experience. So we always talk, having a great client experience is very important to us. But if our clients are asking us to do something and it's not safe for the employees, we have to make sure that we keep the employees in our first priority. So the safety of our employees is before anything else. Some people are kind of taking shortcuts, or are not doing the safety protocols because they simply say, I can't afford it. Right. And I've heard that term, and it's frustrating, because I don't think you can afford not to. So for me, we are monitoring our accounting guidelines. We're reaching out to our health department to ask for guidance, because there's some areas that really don't specify. Like, for one example is, can we ride multiple people in a truck? Is that okay? Because you have the 6-foot distance. There's really no guidance right now. So that's something we're currently investigating, and we've continued to keep just one person in each truck and provide mileage reimbursement. Another, hard to afford but important.
Right.
Face coverings obviously are in place for us here in Santa Cruz County. It's now a requirement for essential workers. So providing them with the proper face coverings that not only meet the OSHA and health guidelines, but also something that works for them. Because if you give them something that covers their face but they can't breathe and work, then, as soon as you leave the job site and someone turns their back, they're going to take it off. So you got to make it comfortable. You got to make it work for them. But it's just communicating constantly. What are those safety protocols that are in place? Because they are changing daily, and they're changing just very often. We're not used to, OSHA usually updates things on a yearly, annual basis, but we're getting updates like weekly and daily on safety. So my advice would be to put one person in charge of monitoring safety protocols and implementing safety protocols for the entire company. And then below that, one person on every crew should be the designated COVID-19 supervisor. Their job, beyond their normal duties, is to make sure that the safety policies that the company has put in place are being followed and adhered to. And if someone isn't following those policies or procedures, that they are letting them know that they're violating. And if they can't get some kind of remedy, then they're escalating the situation to their supervisor. You got to be careful with this because you don't want to pit employees against each other.
Yep.
So you just have to be really cautious. And most of the time, we recommend putting the foreman as that COVID-19 supervisor, as they are typically in charge of the team. So, there's just making sure you're following the safety protocols and make sure you have people in place in your company that are seeing that through in the field. Because once the guys leave the yard, you got to be able to trust that they're going to follow those procedures.
Absolutely. And I think this has become kind of the new normal now, right? So I'm assuming that most of your employees, crew members, foremen, they're typically adhering to some of the guidelines that you're providing them. It's again comes back to daily conversations with your management team where you're having those discussions. If you're finding someone's not really adhering to something, you need to have those conversations with them, correct?
Yeah, feedback is a gift, right? And even if it's going either way, it's a gift. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to have that tough conversation with someone. But for us, the most part, we've had great absorption of our safety protocols. Our employees are excited to feel that they're being supported and they're being provided the right PPE, and we're taking care of them. We have sanitation bottles to spray things down in every truck, trailer, outhouse, container, office, every single place an employee may be. We have a spray bottle in there, and there's not a lack of hand sanitizer or disinfectant spray anywhere in the company. That's something we got on really quickly and made sure we had a bulk supply of that. And if anyone's having trouble finding that, feel free to reach out. I've got some great sources for bulk sanitizer.
Yeah, I'm happy to. We'll provide a contact us email. I mean, if you have any questions after the fact. In fact, even now, if you have any questions, please feel free to jot them in the chat box. We'll be happy to answer them towards the end of this webinar. Just kind of switching gears a little bit. So do you think, Justin, this is a good time for companies to innovate? When I say innovate, not just from a people perspective, but also maybe from a technology standpoint?
Yeah, well, great question. And as far as the questions go, yeah, if anyone's listening and has questions on what we're talking about or specific situations, drop them in the chat box and we'll be more than happy to talk about that. So as far as innovation, I think one of the main purposes of a business is innovation.
Yep.
Period. I mean, innovation and contribution to your community. So right now, it's always a good time to innovate, but right now is a great time to innovate. There's things, and I don't want to share a bunch of secrets here, but I'm not too worried about it. I think for our industry, we have to start pivoting a little bit and look at outdoor sanitation. Outdoor sanitation, or porter services, as it's known to most industry professionals, is just kind of changing trash can liners and cleaning windows and make sure there's no cobwebs on the entrances of buildings. But now we're going to a new phase of sanitation of handrails, door handles, anything that people touch, shopping carts even. You can start to offer services to your clients that provide them with an increased level of sanitation for their outdoor facilities. Playground sanitation, although most playgrounds in California are currently closed. We will be opening those soon, and when they open, it's important that they're sanitized maybe hourly, maybe daily. Directives will come from our government, but it's important that you're giving your clients options to be that go-to company and that resource, because our business professionals our clients are now having to make new decisions. They have a current relationship with you. So if you can expand your services, it's a great opportunity to do so. And you may want to actually look into what is essential in your area for us, pest control, irrigation, tree work. A lot of this is considered essential the entire time, whereas some maintenance and aesthetic type services were considered not essential. So, we have a second wave of this coming at some point. Hopefully it's just a little blip, but it could be really bad. We're seeing our federal government warn us just yesterday about a really bad second wave that could potentially hit us. Be ready to pivot your employees to do more irrigation and do more pest control services. So that way you can still keep your employees employed during maybe the next more serious shelter in place.
Got it. Let's talk a little bit about some positive things. I guess when this is over, what are your thoughts on kind of post-COVID recovery? I mean, do you think, this is going to really help accelerate businesses like after this is done and dusted with? Just want to get your thoughts on that.
So basically, what are we looking at future in the economic forecast kind of?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. So I'm fascinated with economics. I'm fascinated with just what's going on in the stock market right now. I mean, if you're paying attention to what the professionals and the specialists were saying, experts, 2 months ago, we were supposed to be down in the low teens in the stock market. We were supposed to be in this huge recession right now. The stock market's bounced back. So we're now, as of this morning, we are 17% down from the year's high. That's a lot of percent. It's 17, but they were expecting a 40 or 50% down at this point. So the economy has actually stabilized much better than the professionals predicted.
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, so I think for our industry, landscaping specifically, they can cut out auxiliary services like enhancements and new planting and new mulch. So it's important that you have a solid base of clients and a good relationship so you can fall back on those. But what are we going to see going forward is anyone's guess. My personal opinion, and it's just pure speculation at this point, is I think we will see a more sharp decline in the stock market, which will lead to reduced purchasing from our clients across the board. I think the public sector, public works and infrastructure will continue to hum because I think President Trump and the federal government they're very motivated to build out the infrastructure here in the States. But as far as overall economy, I think we're going to see a hard dive here in the next couple months, but also I think we're going to see a sharp incline on that. So it's making sure you have the cash to weather the storm, keeping your key people, and making sure that you're in the best position to take advantage of any type of accelerated recovery. And, it's a great time to position your company for a restructure and then a growth. And it's also a good time to kind of do some spring cleaning and look at your P&L and go through your expenses and find out, what have you accumulated over this great last 3 or 4 years that maybe you can do without going forward, and make your business a little more efficient, a little more competitive in the future landscape.
One last question, and I know I see a few questions coming in the chat box, and we'll address them in a second. But one last question that I have is from a technology standpoint. I mean, clearly with a lot of stuff going on, I think people are going to lean towards getting the right technology in place to help out. Clearly, on the design side, people are not going to be comfortable just designing on a piece of paper or something like that. To show it to their clients. How do you see that kind of landscape, pun intended, changing?
Well, Aman, thanks for bringing up the technology, because I kind of sidestepped that one, and I want to go back to that as far as innovating. I think technology is key to the success of our business. We've been a DynaScape client for I think almost 5 years now, and it has stabilized our estimating process and has made it extremely consistent. We've scaled quite quickly from about 1 million to 10 million over the last 5 years. And what's great is technology gives you that ability to hire people and plug them into an already developed system. And so it's really nice to have technology that works in the cloud that you can access remotely. Obviously, most of us are working remote. You're at the office. It looks like you're the only one there. Yes. So, technology is really important that we can leverage not only business management technology and estimating and design technology like the DynaScape platform, which offers the entire suite, but also technology to help run your financial side of your business and communicate with your team. We're using Zoom here. Choose a platform to communicate on, whether it's email, Slack, Google Hangout. So many options these days, but find the technology that works for your team. Make sure it's not making their job harder, it's making their job easier. But as far as investing in technology, now's a great time, because as maybe we slow down a little bit, you can possibly refocus your energy into onboarding a new technology. And then as far as design goes, I mean, you have to offer some type of digital design that you can send to your client via PDF, because the meeting face to face is now becoming very much reduced, if eliminated. So you need to be able to provide that digital service from a design all the way flow through estimating and project management.
Well, great to hear. Great to hear. Well, in the interest of time, and we've got about 4 minutes to go. Just a couple of questions that I want to just float your way. Tim asks, during this time, do you have ways to recognize your staff for accomplishing team goals?
We do, and we have a training platform out there that we're utilizing. It's called Greenius, great platform. And as our team members accomplish these trainings, we're doing a few things. We're shooting them out in a weekly video that we do to the whole company. We do a little 5-minute address. So we drop their name, say, hey, great job for completing this. We send that text message blast out. We have everyone's cell phone. We send a blast out saying, hey, so-and-so just completed this, this set of courses and is now certified as an irrigation technician. And we send that out. And then we also do a reward at the end of the year at our party. So we're kind of like keeping tabs on how everyone's hunger and development is going. So, really just recognizing people in public is the best way to do it.
Got it. Another question from Joe. How are you instructing your crews to communicate, interact with clients? That's question one. I'll read the next one after this.
Yeah. So, okay, question number one. Yeah, communicating with clients is basically maintaining that 6 to hopefully 10 feet of distance, wearing a mask, and really reducing any communication face to face. So if you can call the client ahead of time and say, hey, we're coming out to maintain your property this week. Is there anything we need to know before the crew gets there? And you can get those notes and give them to and this is more of an account manager job, get the notes, give them to the crew. So when the crew gets there, the client does not have to come out of the building or out of the residence to talk to the crew. They can basically kind of wave and say, hey, did you talk to Justin? The crew's like, yeah, we got it. We're going to do that. We're going to trim that shrub. So communicating that ahead of the site visit to get all that out of the way, make this face-to-face very, very short.
Yeah, I think you already answered the next part of the question, which was like you communicating ahead of the with your clients to let them know, how to interact with your crews.
Okay, that's exactly it. So I guess it's instructing the crews is specifically just try not to interact too close. And then, ahead of time, communicating with them to make sure that you have the least amount of face-to-face communication.
Got it. There's one other question around PPP loans. Maybe you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So PPP loans have been probably the biggest buzzword in all businesses, and specifically landscapers have qualified as we have a larger payroll. So the PPP loan seems to be a good option for us versus maybe the economic disaster loan or some of these other tax deferral programs. The PPP loan is a complicated bill. It's changing almost daily. It's the 13th today. The SBA has extended the ability to give the loan back up until the 14th. So basically, if you got the loan and you certified that due to current economic uncertainty, the loan is required to maintain your business, maintain business operation, I think is how it's said. You have to say, yes, that is correct. And under, whatever, you can get sued or put in jail or something, they're saying. So it's important that you look at the language coming out of the SBA, read the FAQs on their website, and do the research to make sure that if you did receive a loan, you are certifying that the current economic uncertainty requires you to have the loan. And just not a lawyer here, just a fellow business owner, the current economic certainty is definitely uncertain. I mean, we don't have any idea what the future is going to hold. If you're listening to the experts, it sounds like we could all be out of business in a month. I mean, it's just crazy what you're hearing on some of the media outlets out there. So, you just got to be really smart about what money you take from the government and making sure that you're following all the procedures and laws. The other little piece of advice that I got from my CPA is that set up a separate bank account for these funds. So if you get these funds, put them in a separate bank account and write all your qualifying expenses out of that bank account, because if you don't do that, it gets really hard to audit what was PPP money and what was regular business money. The SBA and IRS are talking about taxing this now at a different rate. So there's just a lot of new things coming out. And the SBA, frankly, a lot of people are giving them a hard time, but an SBA loan usually takes 6 months to get. And they pushed out, looks like $500 billion in loans over the last 2 or 3 months. So it's pretty impressive what they've done.
They're
And
expediting it, I guess.
what was that?
They're expediting it.
Yeah, they're expediting it, and there's going to be issues that come up with that. So just staying up to date and trying to make sure that you're following all the laws and regulations that they put in place.
Got it. There's another question that have come up. Are residential clients paying more attention to the landscapes and appreciating the work more than usual?
That's actually, yes, they are. The trend that we're seeing here locally is actually an increase in residential demand. So not only clients wanting to do new landscapes, but they're wanting to enhance their existing landscapes. So we have clients everything from wanting to put in a little patio or a new deck to wanting to redo their whole yard, which is surprising in these times. But we are right here in the Silicon Valley, so we have the Facebooks and the Apples and everything. So those companies seem to be doing pretty well. Zoom actually is located right up the road. So the executives and some of the higher ups in those companies seem to be doing well in this crisis. So their houses, they're wanting to redo their landscape because they're now spending more time at home. I think that goes for most people in America and up in Canada. Is we're spending more time at home, and we want to enjoy the landscapes more. So it's a great time to be a landscape contractor right now.
Got it. I don't have any other questions. Are there any final thoughts, Justin? Maybe just a gist of what we just spoke about that you want to quickly chat?
So I just want to touch on leadership real quick, because leadership it's always a buzzword, but right now it's being thrown around quite a bit. So just a few things about leadership. First off, as a leader, which is basically anyone who's managing anyone else. So you can be a leader as a foreman all the way up to CEO. Your actions and words are magnified. So you as a leader, people are putting their trust in you. And so when you speak and when you act, people watch and follow that much at a higher rate than your average Joe. Yep. So be careful with your actions. Be careful with your words. Continue to educate yourself. What's going on? Be the most educated person in the company. If you're the CEO, the owner, you need to be educated. The other thing I see is a lot of hands-off owners have kind of transitioned out of the company to some degree, and now they're coming back in. So just be careful if you've established a leader in the company and you stepped back, be careful about coming in and undermining that leadership. And I just got to give a quick shout out to my dad. I know he's watching this, but he's done such a great job at giving us that stability of the founder without coming in and saying, hey, I'm in charge now. Everyone reports to me. He's hanging out in the meetings, but he's just given us his quiet, humble guidance as the founder, and
you run the show, which is very important.
It is. I think it's something that I've learned a lot, and I'm super appreciative to him for. The next thing is be vulnerable. Be human. We're all like, we start webinars off like, not professionally polished, and that's what makes this awesome. That's what makes you as a leader a great leader. Because if someone's polished and they just act like this perfect human being, no one trusts someone like that. Like, we don't trust people who are that good at their job. So be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to ask for help, even if you are the CEO. Like, just, be a human, be relatable.
So I said, be genuine, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think the last one, and then I don't know. I know Sarah said we have a little extra time, but people may start dropping off here. It's a busy time of the day. So, one more thing, and I think it's really important, is just clarity around roles and responsibilities. You may be laying people off, you may be restructuring, and there's definitely going to be some uncertainty around not only their job, but what is the people left. What are their specific roles? What are their duties now that so-and-so isn't in the company or has been laid off? Who's picking up the slack? So I think it's really important to communicate that as much as possible. and have one-to-ones with all your people, one-to-one meetings for 15, 30, 45 minutes. Make sure that they're clear on their roles. Make sure that there is clarity, because clarity equals commitment, and lack of clarity, working from home, not sure what their priorities are, that's going to equate to a poor performance for really no fault of the employee, more of the fault of the leader. So make sure there's clarity around that.
And I think it all kind of ties back to the culture that you talked about at the start of our conversation, right? So,
Oh yeah,
continuing to uplift that culture and making sure that everyone knows what the responsibilities are, and so on and so forth. So absolutely. There's one last question there that has come up. What's been the most innovative thing that you've implemented, or thing you're most proud of in your organization, that is the organization is doing during this time?
great question. I think so. So I think what I'm probably most proud of is just our ability to fall back on some really solid relationships during this time, and getting all of our employees back to work, and also not furloughing very many of our employees. We've been able to build up a nice solid liquidity position. So, we did try to keep our employees working longer than most, of course, following the shelter in place. But as soon as that was changed and updated for our industry, we brought everyone back, and I know for a fact we're not as profitable as we were 6 months ago, but all my employees are working, all of our employees are working, and we're in it together. So I think the biggest thing is just, I've talked to some of our team members about their personal financial situation. They're having trouble paying rent, they're having trouble paying bills, they're not sure if they're going to be able to feed their kids, childcare. Their kids usually eat at lunch at school. So all these challenges are coming, and we're coming together, and that's the culture, to help one another. And there's employees are helping each other with childcare, helping each other, sharing resources like, hey, this is where they're doing lunches for your kids this week, or all those kind of things. It's showing a real sense of community. Like, K&D is almost its own little family, and we're all going through this together. We're helping each other, at a distance, obviously, most of the time, but we're sharing resources. And when we can come in together collectively, I think that's where the true value of a company is shown. And we're a staple in the community, and we need to make sure we uphold our responsibility as a leader and a business here.
Got it.
And I think, just to add to that real quick, a quick shout out to EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. A lot of people know about it, some don't, but I highly recommend to look into it. We've implemented it about 3 years ago, and we're now fully implemented, and we're utilizing a coach to help us put it in place. But it basically gives us an operating system to run our business on, and it makes everyone clear about their responsibilities and increases accountability. So if you're not familiar, then check it out. If you are familiar, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say accountability. And something along those lines to help you operate your business is going to be really, really important right now.
I don't see any more questions coming in. Look, it's been a pleasure. I really, really enjoyed that conversation. I'm sure the folks listening in really enjoyed it as well. Guys, if you have any more questions, please feel free to type them in. If not, I'm just going to kind of share my screen over here and give you guys a quick Justin, so this is our email address, our phone number. If you guys have any questions, any follow-up, please feel free to shoot us an email, give us a call. Happy to put you guys in touch with Justin as well. It's been a pleasure, Justin. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Aman. I appreciate everyone tuning in. And, we're just here to raise the bar and try to provide as much value. So if you guys have any specific questions about EOS, about DynaScape from a contractor standpoint, like I said, I've been a client for going on 5 years. Or if you have questions about your PPP loan and just how to implement it with your business, I'm not an accountant or a lawyer, but I can give you some real world advice and stuff that I'm finding out. So just feel free, send an email to sales@DynaScape, and they'll put you in touch with me.
Splendid. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Have yourself a great afternoon, morning, I guess, wherever you are. We'll speak soon. Thank you. Thanks, Justin.
You guys.